Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly, where we cover all things local in Santa Clarita Valley every Saturday morning at 9 on KQRU 107.9. Join hosts Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty as they uncover the latest news, events, sports highlights, and more, keeping you connected and engaged with what matters most in our hometown.
All right, so welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly with Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty. I'm Sage. He's Tim. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We're also on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and you can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. So, avid supporters of presidential candidate Donald Trump have been hosting biweekly rallies on school property at Bridgeport Elementary, but this week they moved off school property. We were at most of these rallies, including the one last week. We'll give you an update. So in sports, the Valencia High football team won its fourth game in a row and snapped Hart's 7-game winning streak. The Castaic High School football team won its second game in a row. The Golden Valley High football team won a physical defensive battle against West Ranch. The Dodgers are on their way to the World Series and will face the New York Yankees. The Dodgers will beat the New York Mets in Game 6 of the National League Championship Series to win the pennant in a spot in the World Series. In the NFL, the Rams knocked out the visiting Las Vegas Raiders at SoFi Stadium and are back in the win column once again. And in hockey, the Kings put together a pair of impressive wins on the road, but lost their starting goalie to injury and to the Golden Knights in Las Vegas in a blowout. So first off, I'm going to talk about the Trump rallies at Bridgeport Elementary in Santa Clarita. So supporters of Donald Trump have been hosting rallies every other week, followed by a vehicle parade around town. There was controversy because vendors selling Trump gear were setting up on school property. So some parents and teachers were outraged at a political event was being set up on school property. And to make matters worse, the October 6th rally featured a Confederate battle flag. So there was widespread condemnation of the display of this flag, notably from Assemblywoman Pilar Schiavo, congressional candidate George Whitesides, and State Senate candidate Kip Muller. Various school board candidates have been attending the rallies, including Akasha Huja, who is running against Linda Storley for Hart School Board in Trustee Area 1, and Charlene Johnson, who is running for College of the Canyon Board of Trustees against incumbent Jerry Danielson. And she had the biggest presence at the parades, sending a truck with large campaign signs. Well, last Sunday, there was another rally at Bridgeport Elementary, and Santa Clarita Weekly was there again. There was no Confederate flag in sight this time around, and the rally actually moved off school property and into the park. You're listening to KQRU 107.9 FM in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Saturday mornings at 9 and on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to turn it over to Tim to talk about local sports. Tim?
Okay, so high school football is getting a little exciting. Valencia moved into first place in the Foothill League. The Valencia football team is on a bit of a roll right now. Valencia quarterback Brady Bretthauer threw 3 touchdown passes, scored a rushing touchdown, and led his team to a 44-14 win over Hart. Valencia has won 4 games in a row, all in the Foothill League, and is in first place at 4-0. Hart lost for the first time in 7 games and dropped to second place in the Foothill League at 4-1. Bretthauer threw 2 touchdown passes to receiver Nick Seymour. He caught 6 passes for 133 yards. Brian Bonner scored 2 touchdowns. His first came on a 98 scored on a 94-yard kickoff return. He finished with 223 rushing yards, caught 4 passes for 42 yards, 110 kickoff return yards, to finish with 375 total yards in the game. Hart running back Zach Ragozic scored a rushing touchdown, and Oliver Welch caught a touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. Nate Mata started at quarterback for Hart. Jacob Paisano, who started the first 5 games at quarterback for Hart, has missed the past 3 games with a shoulder injury. He came into the game against Valencia in the third quarter when Hart was down 30-7, but he didn't finish the game. Hart plays Castaic next, and Hart has a bye. The Castaic football team won its second Foothill League game. They rallied late and beat Saugus 20-16 behind a big game from running back Monty Coleman. He scored 3 touchdowns in the game, the third coming in the fourth quarter with under 2 minutes to play. It gave Castaic a 4-point lead and ended any chance of a Saugus comeback. Saugus led twice in the second half, but Castaic took the lead back both times. Saugus quarterback Jake Nuttall threw a touchdown pass to Rylan Conley in the third quarter to put the Centurions up 10-6. Coleman gave Castaic the lead right back with the second touchdown of the game. Saugus took the lead back 16-12, a touchdown by Ty Hall, but Coleman answered again, scoring his third touchdown of the game with 1 minute and 36 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Castaic won its second Foothill League game of the season and is 2-3. Saugus dropped to 1-3 in the Foothill League and plays Golden Valley next. Speaking of Golden Valley, they outlasted West Ranch in a huge defensive tussle. The Golden Valley football team won a tough defensive game 21-19 against West Ranch. Jamison Torres scored 2 touchdowns for Golden Valley in a game that was scoreless in the second half. Anthony Siragusa also scored a touchdown for Golden Valley. West Ranch's Luke DePerno scored on a kickoff return. Golden Valley improved to 2-2 in the Foothill League. West Ranch dropped to 1-3. West Ranch plays Canyon in its next game. Canyon had a bye and is 1-3 in the Foothill League. And on to the Rams. Kyran Williams, the running back for the Rams, carried them to a win over the Raiders. The Rams beat the visiting Las Vegas Raiders 20-15 at SoFi Stadium, and running back Kyran Williams scored a touchdown for the ninth game in a row. It was only the second win of the season for the Rams. They are 2-4 after 6 games. Williams is making NFL history with every touchdown he scores right now. He has the third longest streak in NFL history for touchdowns in consecutive games, tying Sean Alexander, who scored touchdowns in 9 games in a row for the Seattle Seahawks, and Ezekiel Elliott, who did the same for the Dallas Cowboys. Priest Holmes and Jonathan Taylor are tied for second, scoring a touchdown in 11 games in a row. Holmes did it with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Taylor did it with the Indianapolis Colts. LaDainian Tomlinson holds the NFL record, scoring a touchdown in 18 consecutive games over 2 seasons in 2004 and 2005 with the then San Diego Chargers. The Rams look like they're headed in the right direction finally. They also expect to have receiver Cooper Kupp back for the Thursday night game against the Minnesota Vikings. Kupp has been out with the ankle injury and missed 3 games. But Kupp has been the subject of trade rumors lately. The rumors are considering dealing Kupp instead of bringing him back and working toward a playoff spot. At 2-4, the Rams' chances of making the playoffs are slim. Kupp addressed the trade talks and how he is approaching his return to play.
The trade deadline approaching, your name is kind of circulating in the buzz. Are you aware of that? And if you are, how do you handle that?
Yeah, no, I'm aware of it, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm gonna be where my feet are. That's all I know. I have a job to do here, and I take a lot of pride in giving everything I can for the guys in this building, and being able to step on the field, knowing that I've prepared the best I can. And for 7.5 years, I've been an LA Ram, and I've taken that approach every single day. And whatever happens outside of that, I got control what I can control, and right now that means being the best LA Ram that I can be, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Have the Rams spoken with you or your representatives about the possibility of trading you?
Yeah, nothing really. No, it is that time of the year. There's going to be rumors and things that go around, and like I said, I let that stuff, as much as I can, be in the background, and like I said, just kind of handle my business.
What has it been like the last week and a half, just being back on the field after missing several weeks?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It was obviously kind of a weird thing last week of being able to get a little bit of practice time, and just trying to figure out what was going to be possible. Try to push as much as we could, and ultimately, I trust the team and the training staff that they know, and they're watching out for what's best and what's best for the team, and ultimately decided to end up pushing it to this week. But I was glad I was able to get some practice last week, because Thursdays we don't really afford you the opportunity to get those practices in. So it was good, but feeling really good and excited to get rolling here.
As you and
when did you find out you would be playing on Sunday?
Really, it was all the way up kind of through the game, up until game day. Just like I was preparing as if I was going to play, and until they told me, hey, you're inactive, and I was just kind of counting on it being there's always a belief that there's going to be a chance. So that was kind of my mindset with that.
How did it feel when you were out on the turf? I saw you.
Yeah, no, I did feel good. And it's tough. 'Cause, like, you get to the point like, hey, I could have probably said, like, hey, I think by Sunday I'm going to feel real good. But then what does that mean for the fact that I'm not going to be able to take reps during the week?
The NFC West is not very strong this year. The San Francisco 49ers are struggling with their own injuries. The Arizona Cardinals are building, but are still young and inexperienced. And the Seattle Seahawks are leading the NFC West standings with a 4-3 record and not exactly separating from the field. The Rams could be in the mix for the playoffs if they can put together a few wins. The season isn't a total loss yet, but if the Rams trade Kupp, it might be an indication that they are in rebuilding and rebooting mode. Rams coach Sean McVay talked about Kupp's progress and his chances of playing against the Vikings.
Guy that we'll have to monitor will be Braden Fisk. His back was a little bit sore. He'll be, the guy that'll be listed on the injury report, even though we know that we have a modified practice routine on these Thursdays. So we'll see what his availability looks like, but everybody else seems like they're okay.
And then with Cooper, you said you hope he plays on Thursday. Would that be a normal workload for him when you talk about the return?
That's to be determined. I think, we're just getting in, as you guys know, it's a much more accelerated schedule. So we'll kind of put our first, second, and third down plans together today, and then, get some walkthroughs with the guys tomorrow, and then actually try to get a little bit of a practice on Wednesday. So that'll be something that as we're putting it together and really diving into it, we'll have a better feel for, but definitely excited to have him back.
Now, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford talked about beating the Raiders and snapping a 2-game losing streak.
I think they're a really physical unit, physical and fast. Try to, force their hand on the offense and play with a lot of confidence when they do that. They've got a bunch of smart, savvy players in the back end and some guys up front that rush the passer and stop the run at a high level. So that combination is what makes them good.
When you say force their hand, do they do that also with the looks that they present?
Yeah,
pre-snap?
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Looks they present pre-snap, post-snap, pressures, the illusion of pressure, all that kind of stuff. They do a good job of trying to apply pressure to an offense.
This time of year, the trade deadline approaching, a lot of buzz about possible player movement. Cooper's name seems to be surfacing a lot. Do you hear that, and how do you kind of handle it individually and maybe in conversation with him, if at all?
Obviously, I'm a fan of the league, so you hear those things. But to be honest, we're pro athletes, we're professional football players. We've dealt with this kind of stuff before. Understand it comes with the territory. Don't put much into it because that's a disservice to, what we got going on here. We've got a short week and a really good opponent to, try to prepare for. So that's our full focus. I know that's where he stays too. So don't worry too much about that stuff.
You have one of the youngest locker rooms in the NFL this year. Do you say anything to those young teammates about handling this time of year approaching the deadline?
No, I don't think it's. I think it's a bigger deal to you guys than it is to us.
Have you ever found yourself in those conversations?
I don't know. Maybe you guys would have to fact check me on that. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But if I was in there, I have forgotten about it.
But how do you kind of how does a professional athlete keep that separate from trying to separate when it's all out, and especially in this day and age with social media when it's all out there?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier for us to do than it probably is for family members and all that kind of stuff, right? They're spending all day on their phone looking at that stuff. We're spending all day looking at film, trying to get ready for an opponent. So that part of it, is it makes it easier for us.
Kuka, when a young person goes through something like that early, and sometimes you'd hear different teammates talking him up on the side.
Mm-hmm.
How has he sort of handled this? How have you reached him to just kind of help him on a mental level, kind of get through this?
Yeah, that's the one of the biggest challenges with having an injury that isn't something that's 1 week or something is. There's times where you can feel like, man, you're not part of what's going on sometimes. And I've been there. I was there in 22. Towards the back half of that season, and it's a tough feeling, and so just try to check on them as much as you can. We're all a supportive group around here. We all care for each other a bunch, and I'm checking on all those guys as much as I can just to make sure that they know that I'm thinking about them and that, at some point or another they're going to be important to our team. And I think that's all you can do is try to support those guys and let them know that you're thinking about them and that whenever they're back, we'll be happy to have them back.
From a preparation standpoint, what's the value of having Cooper back out on the practice field, especially in terms of communicating things to the rest of the offense?
Yeah, no, he's he's an extension of what I do out there. We spend a lot of time together. We think a lot alike, and he's able to communicate help me out, help all the guys in the offense out, and then obviously his presence in the just in the huddle out on the field means a lot to us as a group.
All right. Hey, Tim. So why are the Rams considering trading Cup?
Well, it's a lot to do with their record right now. They started the season. They started the season the way they expected to. They lost Puka Nacua, their other star receiver, in the first game of the season, and Cooper Kupp followed. So they've been out with their two best receivers, probably their two best offensive players for most of the season. And they're in a big hole right now. I mean, at 2-4, their chances of making the playoffs with a 2-4 record are not very good. They're in last place in the NFC West, and if they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to have to win the NFC West division, which isn't out of the question right now. They're only 2 games behind the Seahawks, and the Seahawks don't look like they're very. I don't want to say that they don't look like they're very good, but they don't look like they're one of the better teams in the NFC either. So it's not impossible for the Rams to catch the Seahawks, but we'll see it that if they trade Cooper Kupp, it will be telling to how the Rams are going to approach the rest of the season. And if they keep Kupp, they obviously think they have a shot at making the playoffs, and then once they're in, you never know what can happen.
All right, so let's talk about Major League Baseball. So the Dodgers use a bullpen game against the New York Mets and won Game 6, 10-5, to advance to the World Series. So the bullpen strategy backfired earlier in the National League Championship Series in a disastrous Game 2 against the Mets. The Dodgers lost that game 7-2 and gave the Mets hope of winning the National League pennant. But those hopes were quickly dashed. The Dodgers won the next 2 games in New York, took a 3-1 lead in the series, and closed out in Game 6. So with all stars Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, it was a trade deadline acquisition that made the difference for the Dodgers. So Tommy Edman won the MVP of the National League Championship Series. He hit a home run in Game 6 and drove in the first 4 runs for the Dodgers. He drove in 11 runs in the series and tied the team playoff record for RBIs set by Corey Seager in 2020 against the Atlanta Braves. The Dodgers and Yankees have the longest history of teams in the World Series. They have faced each other 11 times, and the most of any teams in the major leagues. So the Yankees have won 8 of those matchups, the last time coming in 1978. And the Dodgers beat the Yankees in 81, the last time the 2 teams met in the World Series. The Dodgers also beat the Yankees in 1963 and 1955 when the team was still in Brooklyn. It's been 43 years since the Dodgers and Yankees played in the World Series. The Dodgers won in 6 games in the 1981 World Series, for those keeping score at home. So, Tim, how does Edman's performance compared to other Dodgers playoff performances?
Yeah, so Tommy Edman is a bit of a surprise that not only that he played this well, but that he played at all. When the playoffs started, Miguel Rojas was the starting shortstop, and he was probably going to be the starting shortstop for the Dodgers in the playoffs, but he got hurt. I think it was in the second or third game of the series against the Padres. And so Tommy Edman came in to play for the Dodgers at shortstop, to play in place of Miguel Rojas, and he hasn't given up the position. So not only did he step in, he filled in his role as a reserve player on the Dodgers. He became the best player on the Dodgers in the playoffs, definitely against the Mets in the National League Championship Series. How does it compare to the other Dodgers in the playoffs? He's been by far the best player on the team right now, and really a surprise that he was even playing at all.
So Why do the Dodgers and Yankees have such a long-standing rivalry?
Yeah. This goes back. God, almost 100 years now. The Dodgers and Yankees were the best teams in baseball for the 50s, for the 40s, well into the 60s, 1960s. And it goes all the way back to when both teams were still in New York, when the Dodgers were still in Brooklyn and the Yankees were in the Bronx. And the Yankees owned that rivalry for years and years. It took the Dodgers, I don't know how many times they met in the World Series before they actually won it. But, it took them to 1955 before the Dodgers won their first World Series. It's one of the classic rivalries in all of sports. It matches the I don't know what other ones we can talk about. The Yankees and the Red Sox, the Giants and the Dodgers. Those are all big rivalries, but it goes back to like Lakers and Celtics level rivalry when it comes to sports. So it's just got a lot of history. There's a lot of stars that have played for both teams in the World Series, and this year is going to be no different. Both teams are loaded with stars, and it should be one of the better World Series that we've seen in a long time.
So the Dodgers won the 1981 World Series against the Yankees. So what was the significance of that, and how is that legacy today?
Well,
what are people thinking about that?
One of the things that's happened is Fernando Valenzuela died this week, and he was the best pitcher on the team, best pitcher in baseball during the 1981 season, during the 1981 World Series. And if people remember back that far, Fernando Valenzuela was the reason for Fernando Mania. He was the reason why LA baseball fans were so excited about baseball during that season. And that whole season was kind of a mess. There was a player strike in the middle of it. The season was lost about 50 games, and the World Series was a lot different that year because the playoff formats were a little different, and the teams didn't play as many games as they were supposed to. And Fernando Valenzuela rose above all that, rose above all the chaos and all the interference, and he made people love baseball again, especially in Los Angeles. So there's going to be a lot of memorials, a lot of memories about Fernando Valenzuela and the 1981 World Series. And I don't know if it's going to help the Dodgers, but it's definitely going to make Dodger fans very nostalgic about that World Series, the last time the Dodgers and Yankees met in the World Series, and the last time the Dodgers had a successful World Series run.
So now let's talk about a different sport, which is hockey, the NHL. We're going to talk specifically about the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings ended their 7-game road trip to start the season with a 6-1 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. The Kings won 3 games, lost 2 games in regulation and 2 in overtime. It wasn't a great road trip, but it had some high points. It included a 4-1 win over the Anaheim Ducks and a 4-1 win over the Montreal Canadiens. But the Kings lost newly acquired goalie Darcy Kemper to injury on the road, and after the first 7 games of the season, Alex Lafreniere leads the team in goals with 4. So Anze Kopitar leads the team in points with 8. He has 3 goals and 5 assists. The Kings finally play at home, opening against the San Jose Sharks. 4 of their 5 games are at the Crypto.com Arena, with games against the Utah Hockey Club, Golden Knights, and Chicago Blackhawks. Kings defenseman Mikey Anderson talked after the game against the Golden Knights about wrapping up the long road trip and getting ready for the team's home opener against the Sharks.
Tough way to end what looked like to be a good road trip, aside from the Ontario games.
Yeah, just wasn't our night, but get home, get a day off tomorrow, and we'll regroup and come back ready to go.
Defensive play in the Anaheim game and the Montreal game so strong. Is it maybe inconsistency the issue with just kind of playing that game over and over again?
I think a little bit. They're really good in front of their own net for one. I think we had chances. They just ended up getting a stick on it or making a save, and on the flip side, they got some big bodies up front that found a way to get touches on pucks, make a couple plays, and scored. So I think that didn't help us, obviously, as we could have used a few to go our way, but obviously something we can learn from and compare it to the other two and see what we need to fix.
If you look at the penalty kill, those last couple of games, it was excellent. What were the breakdowns tonight in your mind? Was it executing the system, or was it just passes that kind of split you guys up?
I think we were trying to do the right things, maybe just not as tight as we were the last couple of games, and obviously you give up one, you might tighten up a little bit, get loose. So it's, again, we can watch it, figure out they obviously have a plan what they wanted to do too, so tip your hat to them, but I think as a kill, no one was happy with it, and we know we got to be better.
Okay, the 7 road games, like every game, you're not getting the advantage of matchups. Like, does that affect, like, at this point, at Game 7, is still a big of an issue? Now you go home and play games. Is that going to be more of an advantage for you now?
I think it helps, obviously. That's part of the way the game is. You get the advantage of being home, so obviously we just go out and play, but coaches can try and do what they think's best to help the team put certain guys against their guys. So on the road it gets tough just because you kind of got to throw them out and try and pick it up on the fly. But obviously, everyone loves being at home. You get the fans, you get last change, a lot of benefits you can get from it. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Trevor, you can just slide in here if you want.
All right. So, Tim, what are the Kings' expectations for their home opener against the Sharks?
Yeah, so Mike Anderson touched on it a little bit when he was talking. The team's been on the road for the first 2 weeks of the season, and I think they're tired of traveling, tired of being in a different city almost every day for the last 2 weeks. So he said that he's excited to play in front of a home crowd, to be at home for once. But he said it's probably more important for the fans. It's more important for the fans to see the team play in their own arena. And it's going to be more important to the fans than the players. And I know that they're excited to be home and excited to be back and to be able to have a little more of a comfortable time to prepare for a game. But I think the home opener and the homestand, the next homestand that they're on, is going to be more important to the fans to finally see their team play in their own arena.
All right. So that's our show. So tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM at 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com, wherever you listen to podcasts. So leave us a comment and be sure to subscribe to Santa Clarita Weekly Online. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.